Now let me walk you through how to set up SAML-based federation for the Google Cloud Platform, or GCP, with an external identity provider. And by the way, this demonstration handles single sign-on for both GCP and Google Workspace. As you see here in the documentation, you can federate Cloud Identity or Google Workspace with your external identity provider, or IDP. Also, in terms of managing user and group provisioning, you can also synchronize your local Active Directory or another LDAP directory into Google by using the Google Cloud Directory Sync utility. This is very common for those of you like me dealing with a hybrid environment. Alright, now let me show you how to configure GCP as a service provider in the Google Admin Console. So first I'll navigate to admin.google.com and log in with the appropriate credentials. And then once I'm there, I'll select Security, Authentication, lastly SSO with a third-party identity provider in this case. Taking the information from our IDaaS using the Oracle IDCS IDP metadata, I'll walk through the configuration. First, set the checkbox for a setup SSO with a third-party identity provider, then enter the sign-in URL from the IDCS metadata. I have a custom logout page, the sign-out page URL to manage session termination. Then I'll upload the IDCS certificate, and then last I'll set the checkbox to use a domain-specific issuer. Next, I'll configure the identity provider using an API in Postman. Again, I'll use the Create a SAML app from my collection in Postman. Just like before, I need the proper authorization to set up my environment. In the body of the request, I'll enter a display name of GCP-IDaaS-blog. Notice again, this is using the login mechanism of SAML. In the body of the request, I'll enter a description of GCP-IDaaS-blog example. I'll also enter the partner provider ID or entity ID as supplied by Google. I'll also enter the Assertion Consumer Service URL or ACS URL provided by Google. And then just like before, I'll execute the API by selecting Send. After a moment or two, then in Postman, looking below, you can see the successful response from IDCS with creating that SAML application for Google. Now let's take a look at the result in the Oracle IDCS Admin Console. I'll first select the GCP IDaaS blog application, where you see the name and description from the API execution. Then under the SSO configuration tab, the entity ID has been set. The assertion consumer URL has been set. Now with GCP, it only requires name ID format and value to be set to email address, so no attribute profile is created. Awesome, with both set up, I'll show you the login process with SAML Tracer in my Firefox browser. First, I navigate to console.cloud.google.com. I'll enter my email address to identify the user account and then click Next. Google then redirects me to the login page, which is a custom login page where I enter my username and password. Now, I'm going to show you something new here. I've embedded multi-factor authentication into the login process with something called Duo. Here's another cool feature by leveraging Duo integration with an IDaaS solution. And it's successful. I'm now logged into the console. So let's take a look at the evidence in the SAML trace. Looking at the SAML trace activity, I'll scroll up and find the orange SAML icon in the trace. And then I'll select the SAML tab. In the contents of the SAML assertion, let me show you the requirements. Here you can see the name ID and format is set to email address with my associated email address. And that's all that's required. And that's the evidence I was looking for. That's pretty cool. That's dazzling, so to speak.